Well, of course, I was born in Quincy, Illinois, and I had a brother, and my father had 3 sisters, and they were not married. They were what you call spinsters, and they sorely made pits out of my brother and me. We were their favorites, we were the only relatives. And they only lived a block down from my home. So I practically lived down there with them and came back and forth. And I remember they had a radio. And that time it was really something to have a radio. And we turned the music on. And I remember I used to kind of dance in the living room, and then every once in a while the aunt would come in and poke and see what I was doing, you know. It's relaxing, and it's taxing, but it makes me feel as though I'm accomplishing something. Otherwise, I used to play the piano, but I can't play the piano anymore. And I can't do as many of the exercises as I like to do anymore. My name is Dodee Buzzard, and I'm an artist, and I do art in many forms. To begin with, my father got me white sand, and in our neighborhood, we would make little containers of rainbows with, I'd color this white sand. And we had brick that we used to color the sand. And we had all kinds of crepe paper that we put in the water to make the water to color your sand. And we had to do it all by ourselves. So that, and then we'd have little bottles, and we'd kind of trade back and forth. We had stores. Fortunate during the Depression that my father got transferred from Quincy to Springfield and then to Beardstown. And Springfield was a very short stay, and I did attend Springfield High, and I had taken cello lessons. It was a school's cello, and the bandmaster taught me every Saturday. I was fortunate enough when I went to Springfield that they had a cello so I could play. And of course it was kind of difficult carrying your cello. It had it was in a case, but even at that. But we didn't stay very long. My father worked for the Public Service Company, and he was transferred to Beardstown. So then, in Beardstown, they didn't have cellos, and the band master said, well, I've got an oboe. You want to learn how to play it? Oh yeah. I didn't realize what it sounded like. It was a double reed. Oh. I used to practice on that thing, and our band was pretty good, and so then we went to the national contest at Cleveland, Ohio, and the main chair played the oboe, and he said, well, when we go and we play in the contest, you just act like you're playing. He said, don't really play. So I'll never forget, I just acted like I was playing and he'd played, you know. And so that was quite an adventure because we went on the train and sat all night and played in the contest. I think it was when I went to Quincy College, I decided to major in art, and it was Father Tom taught, and of course I thought I said the first day or so I said, Father Tom, we were just working with charcoal then. I said, well, when do we do watercolors? Oh, you're just beginning. First you do charcoal, and then you do a little bit more in crayons, and then you work up. And they said your fourth year you'll be doing watercolors. Oh, I said, you mean it's going to take me 4 years to do watercolors? Well, that's right, she said. And I thought, this isn't for me. I don't want to spend 4 years of doing that. And I guess in a way it was very instructive because we had our model at that time, she was a candidate for Miss America. And of course, she was our model. And I had all kinds of charcoal of her knees, her feet, her elbows, everything, a whole semester of. And I don't know why, because when I moved here, I had this whole portfolio and I threw most of them away. I thought, I don't want those, and threw them in the garbage. Yeah, we lived in Jacksonville, Florida, in a cottage on the ocean. And we lived in those days. They were like a cottage below, and then above is your porch, and then a kitchen. Well, anyway, we lived upstairs, and I asked the people that owned the cottage, because they lived in town, in the city, if I could rent out the extra bedroom and bath was downstairs. So I rented out to a shipyard worker, and of course he worked in the daytime. He was never home, so his shower I used as my laundry. I put my bathing suit on and get everything out and soap everything in the shower and run the shower down. And of course, in those days, they hung everything out on the bushes and whatever they could find. And so I dragged them out and hung them out there in the, we were not very far from the beach. We could hear the ocean at night, the waves. Gardening is one of it's not anymore because I can't do it. But I have a girl that I work with, but I like gardening, and I grew all kinds of flowers. I grew sweet peas on the fence, and I had iris, and then there were a lot of wild roses, red roses and white roses and pink roses, and they were the kind that really had stickers. So I had a lot of rose bushes along the fence. And there was a woman that had iris, and she had an iris bed, and then you'd mark what you want, and then at the time to transplant, she would give you the transplants, and you'd transplant them. So when I moved to Quincy, then I had all different kind of iris. I loved iris. And I had different kinds of rose bushes too. The painting behind you, that's where the man that managed our farm lived. And I was real close to them. And Ward, of course, had a very serious accident on the farm. And so he had to go to the nursing home and stay. So I was living all by myself in this big house. But when I think of that, I wonder how I even existed all by myself in that big house. And I would say it would be a good idea to get a good teacher to start at the beginning, if you possibly could. And I was lucky because I had several good teachers. My first teacher got her degree in the University of Illinois in art, and she got a job out east. And in fact, at one time I showed all my art pictures in the hall there. And she helped me with that. One reason I like the colors themselves. They're not, you can blend them and do all kinds of things with oils. They're pretty hard to do. I wish I had more of a chance to work outside, but it's practically impossible in a wheelchair to do much art outside. I think I'm a fairly happy person and a fairly satisfied person, and definitely a person that is a family person.
To get involved and support the Urbana Public Arts program, please contact the Public Arts Coordinator Rachel Storm at rlstorm@urbanaillinois.us or 217-328-8265.